We're now 5 to 10 years away from quantum computing becoming commercially and widely available across all major industries. Recent breakthroughs suggest that universal quantum computing can be viable by 2030. It's important now more than ever to understand the depth of the company's fundamentals during a market correction. During this time, if the companies are just going for the ride along with the rest of the market while they have a strong fundamental, then it's a buying opportunity. But if the companies have weak fundamentals, it'll be hard for them to recover from the market correction. Some quantum computing companies are in a better financial position than others. This video has timestamps, so you can skip to the relevant sections. Let's dive into the data that support why I think IONQ will win the quantum computing race. First, the major types of technology being developed to achieve quantum computing are 1. Superconducting qubits. This approach employs superconducting electric circuits cooled to cryogenic temperatures, near absolute zero, to create and manipulate qubits. These circuits rely on Josephson junctions, which allow electrons to tunnel between superconducting materials. By controlling these circuits with microwave pulses, qubits can perform quantum computations. This is led by companies like Rigetti, IBM, and Alphabet's subsidiary, Google Quantum AI. The advantages are fast operation times and compatibility with existing semiconductor fabrication techniques. The challenges are that it requires extremely low temperatures, making the technology expensive and difficult to scale. 2. Trapped ions. This approach traps individual ions or charged atoms using electromagnetic fields in a vacuum chamber. The ions are manipulated using laser pulses, which encode quantum information into the energy states of the atoms. The key players developing this method are IONQ and Quantum, which is a subsidiary of Honeywell. The advantages are high qubit stability and long coherence times, reducing computational errors. Challenges are slower gate operations compared to superconducting qubits and difficulty in scaling up the number of qubits. 3 is topological qubits. Microsoft is exploring this advanced approach, aiming to create qubits that are inherently protected from certain types of errors, potentially enhancing stability and scalability. Topological qubits are based on Majorana fermions, exotic particles that emerge in certain superconducting materials. Theoretically, topological qubits would be more resistant to environmental noise, reducing errors. But this technology remains largely theoretical and experimental. The advantage of this technology is that it is expected to be more robust against errors, potentially leading to fault-tolerant quantum computation, but the challenge is that it is still in the early stages of development with no large-scale demonstrations yet, and it is still highly theoretical. Other technologies being developed by privately held companies include photonic quantum computing, which uses light or photons as qubits, passing them through networks of beam splitters, phase shifters, and detectors. The quantum information is encoded in the different properties of the photons, such as their polarization or path. Key players using this technology are Xanadu and PsiQuantum. Advantages are that it operates at room temperature and integrates well with optical fiber networks for quantum communication. Challenges are that it requires precise control over photon interactions and high-efficiency photon sources and detectors. Neural atom qubits use neural atoms instead of ions, arranging them in optical lattices created by laser beams. Quantum operations are performed using laser pulses to control the interactions between atoms. Key players are cold quanta, Q-era computing. Advantages are naturally scalable due to the ability to trap and control large numbers of atoms simultaneously. Challenges are that it requires precise laser control and optimization of atomic interactions. Ultimately, the goal of the different technological approaches is the same. It is to get the qubits to exist in multiple states simultaneously through a property known as superposition. Additionally, qubits can be entangled, allowing them to share information instantaneously. Each approach to building qubits have its advantages and disadvantages, and they will have various timeline to progress. D-Wave does not appear in one of the above technology types because it's not a type of technology that does general quantum computing. D-Wave's technology is quantum annealing, which focuses specifically on solving optimization problem by finding the lowest energy state of a system. D-Wave uses superconducting qubits in its quantum annealing processors. Its qubits are made from superconducting loops of niobium metal cooled to near absolute zero. These loops act as tiny superconducting circuits that exhibit quantum effects. This is the same superconducting technological approach as Rigetti, IBM, and Google, but the difference is that unlike gate-based quantum computers such as those from Rigetti, IBM, and Google, which perform quantum logic operations, D-Wave's qubits are designed to solve optimization problems through quantum annealing. So it's used for specific applications as opposed to for universal computing. Let's look at the public companies' technologies that are the most viable in becoming ubiquitous in 5 to 10 years. The path to fault-tolerant quantum computing is measured in AQ metric or algorithmic qubit as one of the measures. AQ represents useful qubits, not just physical qubits, but error-mitigated logical qubits. Other measures are physical qubits and logical qubits. Whereas AQ needs to be 1024 or higher, physical qubits need to be in millions, and logical qubits need to achieve 1,000 to 10,000 in order for it to be considered universal quantum computing. For the gate-based universal computing companies, the timeline target to achieve universal, commercially viable quantum computing is as follows. For IONQ, 2030 is the target timeline to achieve AQ 1024, which translates to the millions of physical qubits and 1,000 to 10,000 logical qubits, and in that year, their target is to generate $1 billion in sales. For Rigetti, their timeline to achieve universal quantum computing is 2029 to 2030. For IBM, 2033 is the year they stated as the target to achieve 100,000 physical qubits. For Microsoft, there's no timeline yet, but they have said they are targeting within 10 years or by 2035 to achieve universal computing. Google's timeline to achieve universal computing is 2029, and for Quantum, it's 2030. Compared to their target timeline, their current status as of today is for IONQ, in 2024 they achieved AQ 35, and in 2025 they're expecting AQ 64. Compare that to AQ 1024 that they need to achieve. For Rigetti, they reported progress toward developing a 36 physical qubit processor by mid-2025, and by the end of 2025, 100 plus physical qubits with 99.5% fidelity as the target. For IBM, December 2023, they achieved 1121 physical qubits, which was the first quantum processor to surpass 1,000 physical qubits, and they're targeting thousands of qubits by 2026. For Microsoft, they have not created any physical qubits yet. It is still only theoretical. For Google, in December 2024, they achieved 105 physical qubits, and for Quantum, in June 2024, they achieved 56 qubits. And for D-Wave, in 2023, they achieved 1,200 plus physical qubits with better coherence. In March 2025, recently, they used the same amount of qubits but solved a complex material simulation problem in 20 minutes, which would have taken classical supercomputers nearly 1 million years to solve. And for D-Wave, their timeline target for universal quantum computing is not announced. In 2021, they announced that they would start to develop the gate-based universal computing, but there have not been any updates since then. For now, their timeline target roadmap is just to enhance their focus on quantum AI and machine learning applications using their quantum annealing process. Then what needs to happen for each of these companies to get to the universal quantum computing phase? For IONQ, they need to continue scaling its qubit counts and improve qubit fidelity. The challenge is to reduce error rates and develop robust error correction techniques. For Rigetti and IBM, their goal and challenge is the same as IONQ, to scale its qubit counts and improve the qubit fidelity or reduce error rates. For Microsoft, it's still theoretical, so they need to prove it first. For Google, they need to address challenges related to qubit stability and error correction. For Quantum, they need to focus on scaling its trapped ion technology and improving qubit connectivity. And for D-Wave, their applications are limited to specific optimization problems, so they need to transition to universal gate-based quantum computing. Analyzing the target timeline and the current status of each of those companies, IBM and Google have the highest probability of achieving universal quantum computing by their target timeline, based on their consistent development in increased qubits and the unlimited financial and talent resources they can pour into their R&D. But quantum computing is only a fraction of their whole business, so it might not have as much of an impact. Whereas for IONQ, Rigetti, and D-Wave, there is a significant upside potential for their stock to increase by even 100 times. So let's dive deeper into IONQ, Rigetti, and D-Wave's financial ability to reach their target. IONQ's strongest financial attribute is its liquidity position. As of December 31st, 2024, IONQ reported $363.8 million in cash and cash equivalents and investments, and they have no debt. In March 2025, IONQ successfully raised approximately $373 million through an at-the-market equity offering program, which brings its pro forma cash balance to over $700 million. Their 2024 operating expenses was $276 million, of which $137 million was for R&D. Revenue in 2024 was $43 million. Management's guidance expects total revenue between $75 and $95 million for 2025. With this trend for the next few years, that puts IONQ at 4 to 6 years of being able to sustain itself without raising more funds. Although IONQ's technology is not yet universal or fault-tolerant and its qubits are still low, IONQ's customers are already finding its technology useful for applications in areas where quantum computing provides an advantage. For example, in machine learning, solving optimization problems, such as Goldman Sachs and other financial institutions, to optimize trading strategies and risk assessments, and in chemistry and material science, cybersecurity, healthcare research, and more. In 2024, IONQ secured a substantial $55 million contract with the U.S. Air Force Research Lab, one of the largest quantum computing contracts last year. And IONQ has partnered with organizations like AstraZeneca to develop quantum applications in areas such as drug discovery and material science. Trapped ion technology requires higher qubit fabrication costs because it requires precision laser systems and vacuum chambers, but there are lower error rates and operating costs are lower than superconducting. This means trapped ion qubits are costlier per qubit, but requires less error correction, so it balances the costs in the long run. In 5 to 10 years, superconducting will likely dominate due to rapid increases in qubit count, but in the longer term, in 5 to 10 years, trapped ion systems could be preferred for larger scale, fault-tolerant quantum computing. Although Rigetti is one of the first movers of quantum computing development, there are some financial concerns of Rigetti. Rigetti's cash and cash equivalents and available for sale securities as of December 31st was $217 million. 2024 annual operating expenses was $74 million, and its annual revenue was $10.8 million. At the current burn rate, Rigetti has about 3.5 years to sustain itself before it needs to raise more funds. Rigetti's customer base has not achieved as large of a base as IONQ due to several factors, one of them being superconducting qubits is advantageous for specific use cases, but it faces challenges in coherence times and error rates. So IONQ is more attractive to certain applications, and because IONQ has collaborations with major cloud providers and companies like Microsoft and Amazon, which enhances its accessibility to more customers. Rigetti as an investment might be riskier, and they may face some more fluctuations as they need to find more funding until their commercial target timeline. Superconducting will require more operating costs, so in order for them to find success, they also need to find strategic partnerships with large companies. For D-Wave, as of December 31st, D-Wave reported a consolidated cash balance of $178 million. Post year-end 2024, they raised equity and now their cash balance is over $300 million. Their long-term debt as of December 31st, 2024 has $30 million, and they also have warrant liabilities of $70 million, but they're not debt per se. At the current burn rate, they have about 4 years before they have to raise more funds. But as we talked about, D-Wave's technology can only be used for specific optimization problems, so in order for them to scale, they need to expand their superconducting technology into gate-based universal computing. Since their announcement in 2021, they have not shown any intention of expanding into gate-based computing, so their future is currently uncertain. In summary, for investors looking at long-term potential, IONQ stands out as a strong candidate for exponential growth, while Rigetti and D-Wave present higher risk opportunities that depend on securing additional capital. As an investor of this uncertain and nascent industry, we will see a lot of fluctuations, but it's clear that the technology works and it's been proven. Based on evidence of what's been developed every year, the scalability will be achieved for trapped ion and superconducting. Follow closely for announcements on increasing the qubits or reducing error rates, which will boost the stock price. If they don't meet each year's goals, their stocks will take a hit. IONQ has partnerships with Microsoft, Amazon, Dell, and NVIDIA, so as they scale, they'll be able to find customer bookings increasing over time. IONQ is more certain in their technology now, and if IONQ takes a ride along with the rest of the stocks and decline in price over the next few weeks, then it may be a great opportunity to take more stock. But even if it doesn't, compared to what it can achieve in 5 years, the current stock price is a good entry point in my opinion. As for Rigetti, their future seems a bit more uncertain compared to IONQ, but diversifying quantum computing stocks and adding Rigetti to your portfolio may not be a bad idea because IBM, Google, and Amazon are all developing the same superconducting technology like Rigetti, so there may be potential for them to acquire Rigetti, which puts Rigetti investors in a good position for that opportunity. As for D-Wave, they've achieved extraordinary results in March. This may result in huge increases in revenue over the next few years, but because their technology is specific and niche, I'm not sure beyond the 5 years if D-Wave is still a great long-term opportunity. Finally, note that on March 20th, there is a 2-hour panel session with the CEO of IONQ, Rigetti, NVIDIA, D-Wave, and other leaders in quantum computing at NVIDIA's GTC conference. They'll be talking about where we are and where we're headed with quantum computing progress. I will share if there's any new information that comes to light from the panel. I hope this was helpful in your investment consideration of quantum computing companies. Thanks for watching.